Antichrist and Egregors, a reading from letter 6, The Lover, from the Meditations on the Tarot. Antichrist, the ideal of biological and historical evolution without grace, is not an individuality or an entity created by God, but rather the egregore or phantom generated through the biological and historical evolution opened up by the serpent, who is the author and master of the biological and historical evolution that science studies and teaches. The Antichrist is the ultimate product of this evolution without grace and not an entity created by God, the act of divine creation being always, without exception, an act of grace. He is therefore an egregore, an artificial being who owes his existence to collective generation from below. Let us ponder therefore on the notion of egregore, with a view to understanding better what the Antichrist is. This important and enigmatic figure of esotericism and Christian Hermeticism, who is at the same time the source of the temptation in the wilderness. To begin with, here is what Robert Ambelon says, quote, "One gives the name egregore to a force generated by a powerful spiritual current and then nourished at regular intervals, according to a rhythm and harmony with the universal life of the cosmos, or to a union of entities united by a common characteristic nature." Close quote. This is a definition which leaves nothing more to be desired. It is unfortunately muddled up by the paragraph which immediately follows. Quote, "In the invisible, beyond the physical perception of man, exist artificial beings, generated by devotion, enthusiasm, and fanaticism that one names egregores. These are the souls of great spiritual currents, good or evil. The mystical church, heavenly Jerusalem, the body of Christ, and all these synonyms, names are epithets that one commonly gives to the egregore of Catholicism. Freemasonry, Protestantism, Islam, Buddhism are egregores. Great political ideologies are other egregores." Close quote. Here is a singular mixture of truth and falsehood. What is true here is that invisible, artificial, collectively engendered beings exist, i.e. the egregores are real. But what is false is the confusion of things which are of an entirely different nature, the body of Christ and political ideologies, without distinguishing the substance here. Because if one classifies the mystical church, the body of Christ, Freemasonry, and Buddhism as egregores, i.e. as artificial beings generated by devotion, enthusiasm, and fanaticism, why not consider God also an egregore? No, there are superhuman spiritual entities which are not artificially engendered, but which manifest themselves and reveal themselves. The confusion between that which descends from above and that which is engendered from below is, moreover, very widespread amongst materialistic scientists, as also among occultists. Thus, many biologists consider the unity of consciousness, or the human soul, as the epiphenomenon, or sum product of millions of points of consciousness belonging to the cells of the organism's nervous system. For them, the quote-unquote soul is only an egregore engendered collectively by millions of individual cells. But this is not so. The egregore of the cells certainly exists. This is the phantom of an electromagnetic nature which resists decomposition after death for some time and which can manifest in haunted houses, close quote unquote, etc. But this phantom has nothing to do either with the soul itself or with the subtle bodies, etheric or life body, and astral or soul body, with which the soul is clothed in addition to the physical body. Now, to say that the mystical church or the body of Christ, for example, is an egregore is to advance the thesis that it is a phantom engendered by millions of believers, just as the phantoms of the dead are engendered by millions of cells. The confusion of the soul and the phantom is a sufficiently serious error. No less serious is the case of confusion of revelations and inventions of spiritual beings who reveal themselves from above and egregores engendered artificially from below. Because egregores, as powerful as they may be, have only an ephemeral existence, whose duration depends entirely on galvanizing nourishment on the part of their creators. However, it is the souls and spirits from above forming, inspiring, and directing communities of human beings who nourish and vivify human souls, for example, archangels, who are the spirits of nations, principalities, archai, or time spirits, the spiritual entity which is behind Tibetan Buddhism, not to mention Christ, whose flesh and blood each day vivifies and unites the church, Christ's mystical body. Egregores are therefore nourished by men, whilst the latter are nourished by souls and spirits from above. Nevertheless, although God, Christ, the Holy Virgin, the spiritual hierarchies, the saints, the church, or the mystical body of Christ are real entities, there still exists also a phantom or egregore of the church, which is its double, just as every man, every nation, every religion, etc. have their doubles. But just as he who sees in Russia, for example, only the bear, in France only the cock, and in Germany only the wolf, is being unfair towards the country of the heart, the country of intelligence, and the country of initiative, so is one being unjust towards the Catholic Church when one sees, instead of the mystical body of Christ, only its historical phantom, the fox. In order to see rightly, one has to look rightly. And to look rightly means to endeavor to see through the mists of the phantoms of things. This is one of the principal practical precepts of Christian Hermeticism. It is thanks to the effort to see through the phantoms that one arrives at knowledge of the depth and the height spoken by the Apostle Paul, which is the very essence of Hermeticism. Regarding the Antichrist, this is the phantom of the whole of mankind, the being engendered through the whole historical evolution of humanity. He is the Superman who haunts the consciousness of all those who seek to elevate themselves through their own effort without grace. He appeared to Friedrich Nietzsche and showed him, quote, in an instant all the kingdoms of the world which have existed, exist, and will exist in the circle of eternal return. He invited him to cast himself down into the domain which is beyond good and evil, and to embrace and announce the gospel of evolution, the gospel of the will to power, this and this alone. Transforms stone, inorganic matter, into bread, organic matter, and organic matter into animal, and animal into man, and man into Superman, the Übermensch, who is beyond good and evil and who obeys only his own will. He appeared to Karl Marx and showed him, quote, in an instant all the kingdoms of the world, where all the slaves of the past are transformed into sovereign masters who no longer obey either God, having dethroned him, or nature, having subjugated her, and who eat their bread, which they owe solely to their own knowledge and effort in transforming stone into bread. And the phantom of humanity has appeared to many others. He appeared also to the Son of Man in the desert. This was the meaning of divine law made flesh and the law of the serpent, biological and historical evolution made soul. Divine law is grace. It is the activity descending from the Holy Trinity, which was revealed 40 days before the temptation in the wilderness. When the baptism of Jesus in the Jordan was accomplished by John the Baptist, the law of the serpent is the action of the will moving gropingly forward, snaking through epochs and layers of biological evolution, passing from form to form. It is the triad of the will to power, the groping trial, and the transformation of that which is gross into that which is subtle. Vertical Trinitarian grace and the triadic spirit of horizontal evolution met, therefore, in the consciousness of the Son of Man 40 days after the baptism in the Jordan. Then the three temptations of the Son of Man took place, and just as the baptism in the Jordan is the prototype of the holy sacrament of baptism, so is the meeting of grace received at the baptism in the Jordan with its quintessence of the evolutionary impulse since the fall, the prototype of the holy sacrament of confirmation. For it is then that the grace from above is firmly established against the law from below. It is then that evolution gives way to grace. Thanks for listening.